A photo editing session, working on some real estate images here. I'm not going to go super in depth on how to use Lightroom. I'm just going to talk about these edits as I do them. This image I've already done a preset on, so I have a little preset that I made that I will talk about in another video. And we're just going to walk through some of them and do some adjustments. And on this one, I think a tiny bit brighter, and it's like slightly blue over here and slightly orange over here. So let's see, maybe we'll draw a gradient right here and turn that to be just a little touch warmer. And then we're going to do the opposite over on the other side. We're going to do a radius about right there. Just don't want to grab too much of the blue on the wall here, but just get most of this orangish area. Bring that warm. Oh, it is inverted, so let's take that back. And now we're doing the right area. Right about there. Maybe a little brighter back there. Or maybe too much blue. Kind of like that. It's minor. Didn't make that much of a big difference, but tiny bit better. And you know, real estate agents like it really bright, so brighten it up quite a bit. And there we go. Looks good. Next image also looks a little bit on the blue edge, so we're gonna go warmer. Maybe not too much. The problem here usually is that when you're doing like a on-camera flash for this style of shooting that we do a lot of, you know, you get the color of that flash if you're not using gels, and I don't think the photographer was using gels. In this one, the downside of using gels is that you end up with like super blue windows, because if you gel your flash to be orange, then it matches the lights in here, but then your daylight looks super blue, which I don't like very much. So I tend to go with the daylight look when I'm shooting, and I tend to just turn most of the lights off in the interior for this particular style of like really fast apartment shooting. And that gets me the kind of look that I like. It's nice to have the lights on sometimes because it brings a nice like bit of warmth to the interior. And anyway, so that's what we do with that sometimes. So let's see. So you saw I did the same thing where I made that kind of, added an orange cast over there, and then brought this side back a little bit blue, maybe a little magenta. No, yeah. Color temperature is kind of the trickiest thing with this style of photo work. Making the interiors actually extra bright kind of helps with not making the color variations so extreme. And most people who are viewing these images are looking at them on their phone anyway. So I'm recording this video in like 4K, but the like end use of this image is going to be like, hang on, let me see if I can make this really tiny for you. They're going to be like this big, you know, so don't sweat it too much when you're doing your image editing. Think about what the end use is. These aren't art images. They're just informational. Kind of tell people, hey, this apartment has a washer and dryer, and you just don't want it to look terrible. You don't want it to look crazy blue, you don't want it to look crazy yellow. You just want it to look nice. But, you know, I'm also of the mind that if you're going to do something, you should do it as well as you can. Make it look as good as you possibly can, because otherwise, why do it, you know? Always try to be the best you can at what you're doing. And so I like to spend a little bit of extra time making it look as nice as I can. I tend to like darker images. I like a bit of like shadow and drama to something, so I don't like pulling the shadow slider all the way up. It makes it kind of bland. And I don't particularly like having the highlight slider all the way down, but for most of these images that we shoot of these apartments, it tends to help keep the highlights kind of in control. So like I wouldn't want it to be super blown out like that, and that's still a little too bright for me. And so I kind of like something like this. It's still going to be bright enough to show up on somebody's phone. Even this room is like a little too hot, and I might drop the highlights a little more with this radial tool here. There. And the trick with the radial tool is to try to make it invisible. So I can drag it down a little bit here and you don't really notice the edges, but you start to do this and you can see where it's being dark in there, and that's no good. So just a touch, and then once you notice it, back it back off. And that's kind of how you use that. I said I wasn't going to do an in-depth thing on Lightroom, but there I am explaining how the tool works. This is sort of a test video for me, where I'm planning to make a series of videos on how to do this. Let me make sure it's recording. Yes, it is. And I thought I might give it, a practice run and use this as an opportunity to get to learn what a message is, because I don't really want to write a script. I don't particularly like working off a script. Maybe I would if I actually did it. So maybe I should give it a try instead of poo-pooing it right away. But I like kind of just doing things off the fly, and unfortunately that leads to me saying and stuff like that a bit. But in time, I'm sure, as I continue to work on them, that won't happen quite so much. And so here we are moving through our images. This light fixture obviously is designed to have like nice light bulbs, like you would put like some Edison bulbs or something like that on there, and they put these hideous, I mean, at least they're LED bulbs, but still, it's kind of sad. That bathroom looks nice though. Here it is. And bathrooms tend to, at least these New York City bathrooms, tend to be really, really tiny, and sometimes they get a little bit of daylight, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's nice to have the light coming in from the room behind, and sometimes it isn't, so they tend to be a bit challenging. I have a tendency to desaturate them. I kind of like the black and white look in the bathrooms, so if we do kind of like that, I think that tends to make these look a little bit better. This isn't like hard and fast for every single bathroom, but it applies to some. And here's another point about like not overthinking these photos. Like a lot of these places are like a little dirty and stuff like that, and it's just like, it is what it is. That's how this apartment actually looked, and if it doesn't get cleaned or changed that much by the time that somebody comes to look at it, that's what it's going to look like. So we're telling the truth here. So don't overthink that aspect of it. Okay, so we got to an image that I hadn't worked on yet. So we're going to grab the settings from this one, and then we're going to paste them onto that, and that's very blue. So we're going to drag that slider back to sort of a neutral shade, maybe on the slightly warmish side. I do prefer the images to be like a touch warmer rather than cooler most of the time, and so that's the look that we're going to have here. And so then if this applies and looks decent, a little too bright, so bring that back down. Otherwise it looks fine. No need to really fret over it. This is just a picture of a closet, so again, don't worry about it too much. But it's good to see. I know that when I was an agent, a lot of people would be like, does this place have closets? It's because people have stuff they need to store, and New York City apartments are really tiny, and a lot of times they don't have closets at all. I use a wardrobe in my house, and I love it, but I haven't happened to find a really nice wardrobe, so not relevant to our photo editing adventure here. What is relevant to me is that I need to eat breakfast. Very hungry. And let's see, what I'm kind of looking at is the color right down in this area to see if I want it to be a little more red, a little more blue, or a little more yellow. And I think about right there, happy place for me. I could do a radial tool right here. We'll drop that right there, and we'll try going a little bit on the blue end, maybe a little bit brighter there. You want your eye to move into the frame, so you really want the brightest part of the image to be in the center of the frame, or where like your eye is drawn to. But the question is like, what is the focus of this image? And it's kind of like telling you that this is what this room is like, and this is how it connects to the rest of the space. So kind of the whole image is the focus, which is different than your typical photograph. The job that these do is different than an image that's meant to be beautiful. We try to make them beautiful when we can, but the name of the game with these is speed and being descriptive. As much as I've tried to have agents let me shoot more artistic images, they tend to want just like, show me the space, Show me it as big as possible. And you know, that doesn't necessarily create emotional impact, so I try to bring a little bit of emotion by making like images that are a little more compelling. So in this case, we're going to dump the shadows a little bit, make it a little darker, a little more dramatic here. I like when a place has spotlights and you can see like the shadows and the way that the light goes here. And I don't want to ruin that by cranking this up all the way to here, you know, but we don't want to make it so dark that it looks gloomy. But we do want to try to preserve as much of the texture and character as we can. And that's often easier to do in bathrooms because they don't have like flat window light. And here we've just got the hallway that leads into the building. Nothing too terribly exciting, but you know, you get a little bit of the feel for what the place is like. Look at this wavy thing up there. It kind of reminds me of a cookie. And so that's what this joint is about. And there we've got some of the daylight and the flash coming from the back, and so we're going to level that out. And this is a bit kind of green over here, and I don't really love a green cast, so again, radial tool right there. I'm going to drag towards the magentas a little bit. There we go. That makes that a nicer kind of look, and maybe a little brighter there. And let's actually pull this brightness down of what's coming from behind the camera here. So bring that down, 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 so that it's brighter in the center of the frame and not so much on the edges. And that's good. Oh, a basement. Lovely. I would guess that this is common space. It might be part of the apartment there. I didn't shoot these, Dustin did. That's lately I've been staying at home outside of the city, and Dustin has been shooting the places, and I've been editing the photos for him and giving him some guidance and pointers, which has been fun and works well for me since I'm at home with my little baby. But I get to still get some photo work in, which is nice. Here's another situation where a gel probably would have worked out really well because there's probably not any daylight down here. And so with the gel, you could have matched the exposures. But since we don't have that, we're going to drag some of these blues down and drag some of these oranges down. Not too much. We don't want it to look like totally bland, but this is getting wild. Well, let's not do that so much. Let's just drop that. There we go. And we've got some laundry machines, and we've got some open walls. You know, that's a good look. That's what we're after. But the objective here is just to tell the potential renter, hey, there's laundry in this building. I've instructed Dustin to shoot these. Hey, I've been in that building. I've shot apartments in this building right here. Instructed Dustin to shoot angled up a little bit. Ideally, you would shoot a shot like this with a tilt shift lens, but you're not going to do that when you're doing this like run and gun style real estate photography. What's this? So you just want to do something quick, and then we fix it in post. So sometimes Lightroom does an okay job with an auto adjustment. It actually did that one pretty perfect, so I don't think I'm going to fiddle with that. But normally I use the guided tool, which I'll show you later in another set or in another video. And because maybe we'll cut the video off at this image right here. I think that's pretty good. And obviously we can't leave this white stuff here, so we got to crop that down to, that's the wrong button because I'm used to the other version of Lightroom. No, that's the radial gradient button. There we go. And bring that down. And I like to have the building as centered as possible, so we'll come back up so the building's kind of in the middle, and then drag this down right here. Nope. You see how the white was coming in around the edge there? Don't want that. But we've got a little bit of space right down here, so maybe we'll bring that over to right there, and C to finish it up. And maybe a little more sunset-y kind of look. I think that's pretty good. Don't copy that, but we don't want to take the geometry, which would be the, the transforming adjustment stuff. We will check to see how that does for making everything vertical. Good. And again, I think a little on the orange or yellow spectrum is kind of nice. I like the sunset, sunrise look. I wonder what time this was. Does it say the time in this version of Lightroom? I don't see it anywhere. Am I missing it? There it is. 3:21 p.m., which in the winter is like an hour from sunset. So it is practically a sunset photo. And here's the trick that I told Dustin to do, is to write down the address and the unit number before every single place that you shoot, and to take a photo with the phone so that it's part of this image set rather than having it rattle around in your brain. You know, if you're only shooting 1 or 2 places a day, maybe it doesn't matter so much, but when you're shooting 20 places in a day, really helps to keep the images organized all right on the image card. And so let's see how they look together. They all seem to have pretty consistent color tone and brightness, besides the outside shots, which I always consider to be a little different. And then what I do is I just reject the images that I don't want, and then when I'm ready to export, I filter by unflagged, and that way they're all there. So if I had gone through and found some other images I didn't want, I would have rejected those in the process. And then here we are, all done with that one. And press our export thing, got our little watermark for our company. And my typical approach with this, in the interest of speed, is I click on this file name, copy, and then I dump that right there, export, and then new folder, dump that there, export. There we go. And then I'll go and I'll upload those to the Nooklin website. And that's all for this apartment, and we'll call it right there for this video. I might make some videos as I edit the rest of these, and I'll keep practicing, and I'll bring in you more knowledge. See you next time.